Thank you to everyone who's just tuned in to, I think we just came up with a name it about 5 seconds ago, the I'm Not Supposed to Be Here podcast. There's plenty of meanings behind that, and it's actually what I've named a couple of my talks coming up about as well, because it relates to a lot of situations in my life where I thought I shouldn't be here, or I'm not supposed to be here, and what the fuck are people doing listening to me speaking on a podcast with my mum? So that's kind of it. But thanks a million to everyone who's tuned in for the first episode. Obviously the first episode is with my mum. The reason I decided to do this is because I think there's a way to get to know someone, or the best way to get to know someone is probably through their mother, because they're going to let all the secrets out on the table. So that's what I've decided to do. Thank you for agreeing to come on the podcast. My mum's a little bit nervous because she's never done anything like this before. She's not online. She stays away from pretty much social media, but she's going to start, which is good, and I push you towards it. She is a play therapist, psychotherapist. I'll let her introduce herself, because again, no matter what way I introduce her, I'm probably not going to introduce her in the way that she deserves to be, because in my opinion, she is one of the standout therapists in Ireland, probably top level, and you need to have more self-belief in yourself. So first question to you, and I hate this question on everything that I ever go on, is who are you and what do you do?
I just feel when you say I'm the best, it kind of feels like a bit of an expectation I'd put on myself. But anyway, I'm Evelyn. I'm first of all a human.
My mammy.
I'm a human. I'm Oisín's mammy, and mammy to 4 others.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's number 1.
Who's the favourite?
Theo.
Our dog. I knew I wasn't going to be the favourite anyways, not with all the stuff I do be breaking in the house.
There's no favourites, because there's only one Oisín, one Larkin, one Michaela, one Owen, and one Eva B, and my life wouldn't be the same without any one of them. So there's only one of each of them.
You're starting to make me crying here in the first 2 minutes of the podcast.
I am so privileged and grateful to grow them into adults. And if I could go back and cherish those moments more, I would definitely go back and change things, because becoming a psychotherapist and play therapist, you learn a lot of stuff that you did that you would love to undo. But
that's one thing I wanted to initially talk about straight away on the podcast, was what you do, because I don't think a lot of people understand it, or understand therapy, or understand play therapy or psychotherapy. Psychotherapy, when I hear it first, is like, holy fuck, psychopaths probably go to her. That's the first thing that comes to head. But what is it exactly that you do? If someone is wondering, Jesus Christ, what is play therapy, what is psychotherapy? Because I think I've done play therapy with my therapist, and I've done art therapy with my art therapist, and it's been absolutely massive for me. I think actually even here with the podcast with a lad speaking out about doing therapy, I do therapy every single week. It's been the absolute making of me, and I've been pushed into it. Well, it wasn't really, I was at the beginning.
Initially,
yeah, and that's something we're going to get into as well, as like how I got into it. But I suppose what description would you give to psychotherapy? What do you do?
Yeah, so I'm a creative arts psychotherapist with a speciality in play therapy. So I use play and creative mediums. Well, whoever comes to me, they use them, and they're there to work through difficult experiences, emotions, patterns that they might have developed in their psychology. I work on regulation, calming the nervous system, and for some it's understanding their systems and understanding themselves. So when they come to me, they play out many different things to work through and process and digest those emotions. And the other part of that is to learn new ways of dealing with things, and new ways of seeing things. They see things in a different way.
Because I think one of the biggest things I've taken from it, from myself, and obviously you don't work with me, because that would be strange if my mother was my therapist, although most of the time you kind of are, because I always chat to you about stuff. I think I'm very open with you. But like with play therapy for me is I'm able to speak without speaking. So like if I go into a room and I'm talking to a say normal therapist where I'm sitting down and it's just back and forth conversation, I'd find that very difficult. And so for me, the play therapy was a way that I could do things that speak for me. And it's like, just questions are asked on what you're playing with or what pictures you've drawn, and it makes it easier. And people might be listening to this thinking this is some crazy absolute cop shite stuff that they're talking about here, but genuinely I'd be one of these people that doesn't believe stuff whatsoever. Like I literally have to have it in front of me and 100% see it, like and it's one of these things that once I started I was like, holy shit, this works. And it just, I don't know how, but questions come up and just you're able to talk about stuff that maybe you wouldn't have been either. So like you do that with kids.
That's what children do. They come in and they just play things out. They use play.
So what would you say to someone that doesn't believe in it? So someone that's sat here and is like, Jesus, play therapy or therapy through playing or pictures or whatever doesn't work, or it's not a thing.
Yeah, so their mindset is very fixed, but like, it's try it out and see. Because a lot of people that come in to me, and even adults, like, I might do a creative piece with parents, and they'll just go, oh my God, like, they just become aware of something through the creative mediums. And it's gentler, it's more compassionate approach, and you're going at the pace of the person that's with you. Sometimes young people don't even talk to me.
Yeah.
They'll just creatively do what they need to do, and they're drawn towards it. It's like their whole bodies will be drawn towards, so it's like body work. They'll be drawn to play it out and work through and process those feelings that they're trying to make sense of. There might be confusion, they might have been left in a state of helplessness or hopelessness. And if that's stuck in the body, because emotions get stuck in the body, and experiences that we have, it's not the experience of it, but it's the emotions of that experience that remain stuck in the body, and that's energy. And that needs to be worked through. It can manifest in behaviours. It can manifest as headaches and somatic issues.
True weight, which is...
It can manifest through weight, or people can use food to self-regulate and to nurture themselves. So we have like core emotional needs. When we're born as humans, we have a need to be loved and connected to. We have a need for safety and need for boundaries. And the boundaries one there in that is like that need for power. Like, we have to feel we have power in the world, that we're able to say no. And on how we're responded to and related to by our caregivers will develop psychological patterns for us in being able to relate to ourselves and others. So if we have a big wobbly feeling and we're scared, and if those feelings aren't co-regulated by the caregiver, then the child will develop a strategy to try and get that need met themselves.
Yeah.
So it might move towards food, so that's the food. Might move towards food to comfort themselves and calm and regulate their system down, and then it becomes a pattern.
Yeah. Because that's something that I wanted to, like, and people might be listening to this podcast thinking, Jesus Christ, Mulligan's Fitness is a big fitness thing, and he's talking about health and always a calorie deficit and nutrition and that side of things. But a big thing that I discuss a lot on my page is mental health and how that is so interconnected with weight loss. And I think the reason I have that view on it is because of you. Because you've always been so good at speaking to me about it. And people probably listen to this podcast don't realise how many videos you've actually helped me make. How many videos you've actually explained things to me in a way that was like, holy shit, this makes so much sense, to where our mental health is so interconnected with our physical health, and our ability to get up, out of bed, move, get to a shower is a bloody battle for some people. And it's something that you've helped me recognise massively. Is like the one thing that you said to me actually stuck out, and is actually one of my videos that initially took my page off back in January, was about food, and how food can be a coping mechanism for people the exact same way drugs or alcohol is.
Yeah.
And I thought that was something that is massive. So like, in your, say, opinion, or in your view of things, what is your view on mental health and physical health being interconnected?
Yeah, so I really believe that our mind and body are connected. It's proven now by science with the polyvagal theory that we have a highway. So we have a vagus nerve that is a super highway. So it's scientifically proven now that our body and mind are connected.
Yeah.
And so this is one part of it, just one part of the story. And that vagus nerve has ventral vagal part of it that is where we rest and digest, and all the blood flow and the energy is going towards digesting our food. And in that state we feel joy, we feel calm, we feel balanced, we feel pretty good, like. But then when we can get knocked out of that through maybe having too much of a load on our nervous system, so a lot of stress, a lot of like worries, and it's really connected to these psychological patterns that we develop in childhood. Remember, they're developed in childhood. All our beliefs are fully formed by the age of 7. We've formed these beliefs about ourselves. I'm not enough.
I'm not able to exercise. I'm not good enough is a massive one. That's been a big one for me for years. I'm not good enough, hence the name of the podcast. I shouldn't be here.
So that self-esteem, and it would be connected to early experiences and how you were related to when you were younger. And I suppose that's the part I spoke about earlier, going, if I could go back, I would cherish moments better and know how to do it differently. But now I'm able to give out what I do know from the knowledge of what I've from my own parenting that I did. But to go back to the vagus nerve, so that there's the dorsal vagus, which brings us to shut down, and that's when our system feels so under threat that we're just we just become immobilized. That's the shutdown response. That's the freeze response, we call that. And you see, alongside we do have the system, our nervous system, and that gets activated by an area in the brain called the amygdala. So it'll pick up on threats in the environment, real or imagined. And that sends a message to the hypothalamus.
So it's like anxiety, like.
So, and then that sends a message down for the nervous system to activate. The nervous system decides whether we go fight, flight, and can be based on past experience, or we're going to go into the freeze response. We go into the freeze response when we're like totally feeling helpless and immobilized, that we have no hope here. Like I'm a child and I can't fight against my dad or my mom, so I go into, we call it dorsal vagus shutdown.
Yeah.
But then patterns are all get programmed in childhood. The nervous system is getting I suppose programmed and built, when we're children. That nervous system has to get developed, just like our psychology.
So how is that interconnected then with, say, our overall health, as in not our mental health, but more so physical health?
Yeah. So its connection to the body is, so you were talking about the mind-body connection is what you asked me about. So I believe that the mind and the body, and it's proven by science now with the polyvagal theory, that they're closely connected with this super highway of nerves that connects our digestive system, our heart, our organs, to our brain, and connects into our nervous system. And once we get to know that and know how our nervous system works, know these patterns and how our brain works, that's where we can make change
and work around them. Because
education is key on part of it, and then accepting, like going into your body and really trusting to feel into how am I feeling right now, because we have this neuroception system that picks up on stress before we do.
Yeah,
so you'll be stressed before you even know.
Realize, that's a big thing with me as well. But I was going to touch on that thing of like what you're talking about there with your nervous system and being stressed and the digestive system. Not a lot of people actually pick up on that, and only through you I have. And it's actually something I'd speak to a lot of my clients about, or the people that would work with me, is when they wake up in the morning time and they feel really sick. And they don't feel hungry, and so they skip breakfast. And so this has just become a norm nowadays, is that people are just not. And again, skipping breakfast doesn't leave you more susceptible to gaining weight in certain regards, as in it all comes down to obviously a calorie deficit, and you're probably sick of hearing fucking cunts online rant on about that. But like with the calories in the morning time, or feeding your body in the morning time, it gives you more energy throughout the day, but also will keep you more full in the evening time. So what's happening is people are waking up, they're so stressed about their day job, everything that's going on in their life, and so they don't feel hungry, and so they skip breakfast because they feel sick, but they're actually just sick because they haven't had a mindful moment to sit down and allow their nervous system to calm down. And so if they actually sat down and had breakfast for a moment to just sit down and have food, it'll actually reduce cortisol and therefore leave them being able to feel more full in the evening time, because they've actually had a meal earlier on in the day and have more energy throughout the day. So a lot of people will complain about hitting this midday slump or not having enough energy, and it's likely because they're not fueling their body correctly, or they're not taking in enough food. And part of that might be because they're running around the place all the time, because they're so anxious about everything that's going on, because there's so many tasks to tackle, and their brain is going to be like, I need to get rid of that first before I can worry about food, because I can survive however long without food, but I can't survive however long by this, as you talked about, the perceived fear of like this perceived thing that's going to happen, or all these tasks that have to get done that I'm not going to get done. And I'd often feel that, but a big thing for me would be, I'm sit down and have my breakfast. I'm going to sit down anyways, even if I feel sick, and just take a couple of bites out of something and have something small. And I know you're a big believer in breakfast as well, because I always see you have your breakfast. Do you feel like that helps you? And I always feel like getting up and getting a bit active in the morning, and going out and getting sunlight, seeing the light. And I suppose coming into winter we won't have that, I'd never go anywhere without breakfast, because it's one thing that I picked up off you after the last little while, or off, say, even living with you for the majority of my life after the last little while, but it's like how you use movement and activity and exercise to feel good, not to look good. And I think so many people need to start focusing on that. It's one massive thing that I've taken from you, because and we'll go back into where I started from in a minute, but like from where I am now, even 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, I'm completely different, because you would have been in the situation where I was actually coming to Mam and I was like, just cook me chicken rice, that's it, all I want is the smallest portion you give me, all I want is chicken rice, because I wanted to look a certain way. And so I was so focused on doing exercise for looking a certain way, so obsessed with my body, I'd constantly look at myself in the mirror and hate everything about myself, because I was so hyper focused on everything was for that. Everything was for the way I looked. All the bodybuilding training, all the lifting weights. But I've slowly moved away from that, and now I do exercise for the same reasons you do, is to feel good. I get up and I try to get outside if I'm not feeling great, or I go out and move around. And this is only since last September where I wasn't fucking feeling good at all. But it's something I took off you. And I think like leading by example is another thing that you've definitely done. It's like you've always been active as long as I've known you.
I would definitely say for the people that wake up in the morning and feel sick, like we're meant to have some cortisol in the morning, because it's like there's healthy amounts of cortisol. We need it to get up and do things. We need it to kind of like, if I have an exam, I need to study. The idea is like, is if I go outside of that and it's like really strong coming, I would lean into it. I would strengthen that bond and that connection to myself, because I want to feel what my nervous system is picking up.
And by lean into it, you just mean like think about it.
Into it. I didn't know I would. And when I take the breath in and then I breathe down into my body.
So when you're breathing, are you thinking? I'm
strengthening that connection. No.
Okay.
I'm strengthening that connection to myself. I'm moving inwards to catch what's there. And then I'm going to develop a really strong relationship with myself, be my own best friend. I'm going to start having a dialogue with it. And I'm going to say, like, I'll acknowledge that feeling. Gosh, I'm feeling scared. I name it. Straight away, by naming the feeling, we know that will regulate. So I'm regulating myself. I'm regulating my nervous system down. I'm feeling into where that feeling is in the body. To hold my attention on it, I might give it a colour or a shape, and I will start at talking to it. And I will say, like, why am I scared? And I really feel it. And then it will say, I'm scared because I have this, this and this. And I say, what do you need? And it might say, well, I need you to do something about this. I need you to breathe and tell me it's going to be okay. And then I'll go, look, it's going to be okay. You got this.
Yeah.
So I'm reparenting myself. I'm like,
gotcha.
I'm being my own best friend. So that's what I'm talking about, the vagus nerve. We need to strengthen that connection and the relationship to self.
Rather than
back in touch with our bodies. We heal in our bodies. Our emotions are in our bodies. If there's emotions there, so what I might get in the morning when I wake up, what could be there is from childhood. Something in childhood when I woke up, I might go, gosh, I never wanted to go to school. I'm just saying I used to love school, but I would get, if I was somebody, well, I know that that wound is going to open up, like in the morning, every morning when I wake up, like something else. If it's a strong emotion, something else is there. So I want to start healing that. Yeah. So that gradually over time, I'm going to feel more at peace. I'm going to feel stronger because I'm going to develop a really strong connection to self. And then if you look at your self-talk, like at the critic, and this is why I got this from you, really, but I changed how I used to do this. So it's like having that inner critic, like you're not good enough. So that's a pattern. We can do a bit on that if you want, but and where that comes from. But I would be like, I think I lost my train of thought a little bit.
The inner self-critic.
Yeah, so the inner critic, like where, and I would start strengthening hearing that. I would want to get used to hearing how I'm talking to myself all the time, and then when I get used, I'm like, oh my god, that doesn't sound too great. Like, that's like, why I wouldn't say that to my best friend or anybody close to me. So then, what I started to do in the last couple of months was and I didn't do this before, but I thought I'm going to do what Oisin does, and I started to go fuck off because that voice is my caregivers. It's either my mother or my father or the teachers in school when I was younger, and I made meaning of things that were said to me or how I was treated when I was young, and I had this, and I've had that huge sense. It's like, I think it's around the world, it's really big, that not enough. I just feel not enough, not good enough. Every time that comes in now, I go fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, so I start using that. And I've even started saying that to people,
and you used to give
adults, older teenagers and adults. And I said, like, what's it like to say it, to fuck off to it?
Yeah.
But, and I mean, there is that worry that that's my checker, that's my moral checker. It's not your fucking moral checker.
Yeah, it's so funny because you used to give out to me for the bad language all the time when I first started uploading videos online. Well, to be fair, after a while then you were kind of like, oh Jesus Christ, right, it makes sense.
I began to think about like meaning. What meaning am I getting? He's not saying it to anybody, he's not directing at anybody, there's no meaning to it.
No, I never.
Meaning is what I give it.
I've called one person online a cunt, and I got an account warning for that, so I won't go back into actually calling people cunts, but I say certain things are this, but it's just to emphasise the point. But I want to get into, like, one of the biggest questions I got asked when I was setting up the podcast is why I was overweight when I was younger. Because I was about 100 and, for anyone that doesn't know, I was about 130 kilos, 120 kilos, and now I'm sitting in around 78. I don't really watch the scales a huge amount because I'm actually, I don't try not to focus on my body too much. I just like, I don't really care, I feel good at this. But what would you say?
Without, like, of course I don't want to, like, okay, I just have to think in my mind. Yeah, I definitely have ideas, and I suppose in why that happens. So myself and Oisín's dad are divorced, and the environment would have been like not very secure, and lots of like conflict and rows, and we'd keep going together, but it wasn't getting any easier. And then the style that I parented in was very much the behavioural model. I tell parents
So we're speaking to people here that have no clue what the parenting model is. So like
so
literally
it's a behavioural model. So it's like I'm correcting you all the time.
Okay,
no,
there you go.
This, don't do that. Why are you doing that? Like, oh my God.
But I think that's what most parents are
but that doesn't regulate your nervous system. So you're in an environment where your boundaries weren't really respected, because if I'm constantly correcting and I'm coming in and saying no, you're not getting that developing that skill to, and developing that power, like, because all children have a power, and when we're in a power struggle with our kids, it means they need to have some power here. Like, it's a need, because they need it as they get older to, like, if the bullies come in or whatever. So I feel like the weight was definitely a protective thing. Like, it was definitely like, I have no protection in the environment. I feel unprotected. I don't have a voice. I can't say no. I'm shut down.
I couldn't get angry. I fall asleep.
So I feel like that the food probably started out as a strategy to manage and because I wasn't co-regulating your feelings. So and you were a very, very sensitive boy.
It's so funny because not once here have you mentioned that I was lazy, that I was fat, that I just didn't want to do anything, that I wasn't motivated or any of this stuff. Really, it's all connected to other things. But
if I stem it back even further than that, your birth was quite traumatic for you, and as well when I was about 6 months when I was about 6 months pregnant, I fell on the bump, and I know how that impacts the nervous system now. So if you have trauma in the womb, and if I'm stressed and anxious, which I was, and I wasn't aware I was anxious, but I was running under anxious because I was around everywhere. And you talk about addictions. Mine was running. Mine happened to be sport. Because when I grew up, my strategy couldn't be food, because we were farmers. But at that time, we could go maybe a few days with no food. And that was the 80s. Like, that was the time in the 70s. At the time, there was if we were struggling for money, farmers weren't given any money by social welfare. We really had to do without. That's really just the way it was. So I had a thing with having the presses full. So you can hear that there's many different things. And so your nervous system was already sensitive. So it got wired to be sensitive prior to birth because of the trauma, and then the relationship with me. Like, it wasn't all the time that way, but it was.
No, there's loads, like,
a lot of that time.
And it wasn't even just that. Like, the bullying the whole way through school made things worse. Because I back in, like, as far as I remember, junior cert, or not junior cert, like senior infants, or when you first start school, I don't think I was overweight then. I can't remember.
You were so shy though. Like, I was so, because your brown eyes got you so much attention. No matter where we went.
Where's the attention now when I want it?
You hid behind me, and you had white blonde hair, like, and you were so cute. And then I had a little Mohican. You had a little Mohican.
The mullet, actually. No, and I have a back.
Not Mohican, but shaved in at the back.
The mullet.
There. And So you were such a cute baby, and you, like, when you were born, like, you did, because you had to have suction, so your dome head, you had a 48-hour headache.
Do you know what's going to happen is people are going to start saying I have a fat head now, because I was dropped my head when I wasn't. You was dropped inside your belly on the ground, and now you're calling me dome head. So now my nickname online is just going to be fat head.
You suffered a lot with digestion. I was thinking about this today, because I'd have many kids coming to me that would have suffered with that as childhood. That means that nurture didn't feel good. Like, nurture didn't feel good, because food is nurture.
Yeah.
And not only that,
I always had bad heartburn and stuff.
But that was your nervous system. Like, it was a nervous system response, because it would have shut down your digestion. So no wonder you had a traumatic birth. So your digestive system shut down.
It was fucked.
Of course, you were going to have all of these things. So that was the beginning, was hard. And then as you grew older, my parenting, you were very shy, very sensitive.
Yeah, I just remember, because there was one key thing that you said to me once, is like, I got afraid to be angry then as well, because I was always fecking throwing tantrums and going mad. Then over time, I think a lot of stuff happened when you were very young. We lived in Killarney, you were born in Cork, and like, you had a lot of experiences of being picked on as a young kid. If we went anywhere, you had a lot of accidents, like you split your chin open. Yeah.
And not only did that happen, you fell after that and opened up again. And like, you were very quiet, so you couldn't verbally express those emotions, how you're feeling. So, and because you were sensitive, like, managing frustration was very difficult. But I didn't co-regulate, so you didn't develop that skill to be able to.
What would be co-regulation? Again, we're speaking to people here that might not, because I don't even know what co-regulation is.
Co-regulation is I'm hearing you and understand. Gosh, hey sweetie, like.
Oh, listen,
yeah,
don't speak to me like that.
But it's like, hey, but if you were a little boy, that's how I would want to speak to you.
Yeah.
Sweet, that's really hard for you. Like, as Gabriel Mata talks about,
people are going to start screen recording this podcast, and I'm going to start fucking crying if I start getting screen recordings of my mom saying that.
Yeah. So I think it probably it opened up all the bullying, and definitely the weight was you were protecting yourself, but it was unconsciously your body was doing it for itself.
And was there a specific moment that you remember the change?
You started to regulate your food, but I didn't see any of that back then, and all the presses. So I wasn't very good with limits or boundaries, like, so because I grew up in like not having. So of course I was going to go. They're not going, if they want food.
Yeah, we got away with murder.
Food, because I remember when I was young, I remember going to the presses, and because I had younger siblings, I remember opening the press for breakfast, and I loved breakfast. I always loved breakfast.
Yeah.
And there was no food, and I think there was a few slices of brown bread, white bread for toast, and I thought, I can't take that on my siblings. I'm going to leave that, and I'll go hungry. So, and I didn't have an option even for my own, because I definitely, looking back, had self-esteem. Like, I remember moving towards, maybe I'll be anorexic, but I couldn't then, because we didn't have the food for me to maybe form those adaptations. So the only thing I had left available for me was exercise.
Yeah,
the only thing, and that's an addiction, and it was an addiction for me. For a
negative
time.
side
and
of
I would
things.
get up really early and go for runs when you were young. I'd be exercising in the room. As soon as I'd given birth, I'd be doing sit-ups and I'd be
mad.
Like, I was constantly like exercising.
Yeah, it's so funny that you
put. Lucky that's people look at that as healthy, but actually it wasn't healthy. I was getting burnt out, like, and I needed to look strong, because
I work with so many people that are like that put in so much effort to exercise and burn themselves out with it, and don't actually recognise that it's a negative thing, and it's so connected to the way that they look then as well, to trying to burn as many calories as possible. But it's so funny how exercise can also be a negative thing, because it's the same with everything. It's the same. What did someone say to me once is like, the poison is in the dose. So I did a McDonald's challenge a while ago, where I ate McDonald's for 2 whole weeks and lost weight doing it, and I controlled the amount of calories that I was consuming, controlled the amount of McDonald's that I was consuming on a daily basis, and my health actually improved. My cholesterol decreased over that period of time. Over that period of time, I ended up losing about 2.5 kilos, and I actually didn't feel too bad. But again, if I was consuming enormous amounts of McDonald's and I wasn't in control of my calories, the poison is in the dose. There you go. It's probably going to have negative impacts on my health. Same as if I stand up here now and drink 3 litres of water, it's going to probably be negative to my health, because there's too much. And so what you're talking about here is like where exercise can be a positive thing in dosages as well, and where it's not putting loads of pressure on you, or where you don't feel like a failure because you haven't got your session in, and there's so much connected into that.
So like, it was like I would miss out on things just to exercise or go at the time in Dublin the gym, so I missed out on many things because even when I started the kickboxing and the Muay Thai and I used to do that class.
You got me into that.
Thai, then I do BJJ class, and if there was another class on, I do that, and I bring you with me.
Fun fact: my mum has had a Thai boxing fight, so she had a Thai boxing fight, which is like kickboxing, so essentially UFC. But you're not allowed on the ground. So I had to watch my mum step into like a UFC octagon, get her head kicked in, and then I had to go out and fight after. And I was like, this is going to fucking happen to me. I'm going to get my head battered after watching my mum getting her head battered in. Sorry, you got killed. But she went in against someone that had like 20 or 30 fights over in Thailand. Came over, and my mum fucking first, what age were you then? 40?
40 something.
So first time stepping into a ring, 40 years old. Because one of the things, I think one of the biggest changing points in my journey was you actually bringing me up the kickboxing class and getting me going and getting me in there and giving me that support, because I always mention Owen started me and my older brother brought me in, but you did a lot of stuff with me as well. And was there any turning point that you specifically remember with me where I was like overweight, I was really afraid to leave my room and say my confidence was quite low? Was there any turning point where you're like, fuck, this is one moment that I remember?
Yeah, I remember as a parent not knowing what to say and what to do. Like, I remember you lying in your bed and yeah, I do, and being very, very worried and not knowing what to do. And knowing that part of the issue was the environment.
Yeah, I think the best thing, and the best people listening here about the divorce from my mum and dad, it's the best thing that ever happened. I always say that. I say that all the time. But back then it's like, holy shit, it's this big massive thing of like, oh, my whole family split. But it's quite normal nowadays anyways. I think a lot of parents...
I want to go back to like say the gym, but I was also very strict on my diet. So, and I as I got older, like and so I was always very strict on what I ate. And since Oisin started this work, I kind of began to look at it differently and kind of go, oh, do you know what, I can have...
Because you used to listen to fucking V-Shred online, and he was a cunt. Yeah,
when you first started in this, I used to be listening to everybody,
and they're all. I'd be like, "Mom, don't listen to him. He's just talking absolute shite." I was
listening to everybody because I thought I might hear something that might help or guide Oisin, or like, because I was like, while you were on your journey, I was on it with you, because I'd be listening to things. I remember one day listening to this woman on a podcast all about food and patterns, and oh my god! And I sat down, I wrote 2 A4 pages
for my videos.
I have loads of ideas for you. I just listened to this woman for an hour and wrote all the bits that I could hear that she said that would help you.
So copying content off someone else, like the majority of people online.
All the time for like, even now, like I'll be watching, I'm like, oh, must tell Oisin that, or must like,
yeah. But like, because I remember, and it's a funny thing that I remember for ages, like, man, stop listening to that fella. He's talking shit. And you're like, no, I think his information is good. Then you'd see a video that Ben Carpenter did. So we'll see him at IFS. But you're watching his videos, you're like, Oisin, this fella's saying all this stuff. And I was like, no, I told you that like 2 years ago. Like, and now you're coming back to me. Yeah, it's so funny. But just into the back to say when I was kind of stuck, or the turning point. Last September was like a massive turning point in my life, and it's something I want to touch on the podcast a little bit, of being like when I was stuck. So for anyone that doesn't know, I probably had the roughest, I would say, put it up there, one of the roughest times in my life. I don't know if you've seen it that way, but for me it was like, I was living in Spain with an ex-girlfriend of mine. I came back home and it was like we weren't together anymore and just broke up, and I felt like I had nothing because I'd come back from Spain, couldn't afford to pay rent there. I actually ended up in debt with my coaching business. Nothing was going my way. I thought I was going to have to give everything up, and then from there you were pushing me to book flights to go to IFS, and I did, and that changed my life.
And I remember, like, it's a really hard thing for me, because the pattern that I developed many patterns actually, but one of the ones that stands out to me is the helper, the fixer, the rescuer, and like as a parent, like it could get you killed eventually. Like you just become like the person everybody.
Yeah, because last September was a moment where I didn't think I was going to make it past tomorrow. That
was the one time that I moved straight into like. I remember reading a research article on validation 80% of the time. Sit with the person and just validate. And it's really hard as a parent to do that. It's easy for me to do that in my work. I could do that all day. When I move over to my own children, that's when stuff gets triggered for me. And then like there's that mother bear part or lion that's right. Oh, Jeannie Mac. Like
need to fix.
I had a feeling that 2 occasions, I remember one before that, and I thought, oh my god, this is verging on I think he could actually commit suicide. That's where
I don't know. I'm laughing at that because it's so funny, because that's actually the thoughts that were going through my head.
That's really where I was, and I thought the best thing I can do here now is just validate. And I stayed in validation throughout the whole lot of it. I just kept validating.
There's two moments I remember: lying on your bed, and I was on the phone to you, and sitting on the staircase when I was chatting to you. Two of those moments.
That's co-regulation.
So two of those moments listening to me, and there were moments where I was going to get in the car and I was going to fuck off and I wasn't going to come back.
I picked up on that great, and there was that time, but there was a time, I don't know if it was 2 years before that, and I'm not sure, but I remember you sitting on the table, and I remember that moment as well. I just had a fierce, strong gut. You might not remember, but I remember it. And I remember I got that gut sense, this boy might not make it. So when you say what you're calling your podcast, I go, this guy might not make it.
Because it's even, because like, if I think about it, last September isn't even a year ago now. Like, it's actually absolutely crazy to think. And like, one of the things that got me through it was speaking to you and then speaking to Dad. And one of the best things that Dad said to me was like, you're a fucking gobshite. One of the best things you did was sit down and talk to me, and it's so funny how I utilised the two of them. So I would go, I made up, so one of the things that got me through a tough time like that, and like we'll go into how I started therapy. Therapy is a massive one that I got in a routine of making sure I was going, starting jiu-jitsu, and my jiu-jitsu coach David Coelho, having like a father figure outside of my father to speak to me about things or give me another perspective on things, and just give me talks around and how jiu-jitsu is related to life, because there's so much of it that's so similar, and give me that confidence. It's almost like a father figure there, and still so much confidence in me. But then you, and speaking to you as well, and Dad, like those things. So I'd go out to Dad's house every single night, and I'd waste as much time out there as I could, because I knew if I got really tired out there and I was speaking to Dad, I was around someone, that when I came home that I could sleep. Because the worst part of that for me was being by myself. I could not be I was like, fuck, I can't be left here with these thoughts, because if I think too much of this, I'm going to go out and fucking kill myself, which sounds so stupid, but at the time it made so much sense to just end it, because I never knew when I was going to feel better. So one of the things, I'd go out to Dad's until I felt really, really tired. Throughout the day I'd ring you, so I had someone to talk to. One of my best friends, Craig O'Grady, and he's done so much for me. I would not be here without him. He used to just come in and play chess with me. Louis, another one of my good friends as well, would be speaking to me. But what I did is rely on everyone around me and speak to as many.
So you knew exactly how to keep yourself safe. It's like your body knew. It's like your mind didn't know, but your body knew. Your body was drawing you to these people. Our body holds it, like, and we've trusted and strengthened that connection to our bodies. Like, I feel like we'll be living in a different world, like people.
Because I don't know, because when you're stuck in that situation, and so for you as a parent to see your son,
scariest moment of my life. I have those two flash images, and I knew my pattern at that stage. So it's really important, like really learning the patterns. So when I learned that that's my pattern, and the helper, and sure, look at the I ended up in my life doing, like, I found a career that I could be the helper.
Same as me.
I can't even do that in my work. That's the thing. I am not even allowed to. You cannot suppose you don't. It's like, no, don't. You're not. It's not part of your work to be the rescuer. You gotta do what I did with you that time. Really sit and listen and hear. And it was very hard for me with my family, because that rescuer would come up. And then so I had my own piece going on there, but I knew that was my passion. If I didn't know, I think I would have went in and thought rescuing was going to fix this I was going to fix this and tell you, say.
But I was just listening, like that was.
But it wasn't. It was just listening and validating, and then you brought up IFS, but it was actually you ultimately that made that decision to go to IFS. That wasn't me, actually, because through the validation, and it's research as well, through the validation you came to your own reason, and I went, I remember you saying to me, Mom, I think I'll go to IFS, and I was like, that's the best thing you could do. I can't believe that you decided, you decided that, to go. But you probably weren't
because
aware
I had the support there,
At the time, I'd say you weren't really aware that actually you came to that conclusion that was actually going to really help you. And that was where you needed to go.
And I was just getting out and speaking to people. Because one belief that I'd fully convinced myself was that I couldn't speak to anyone. So I remember I even went to cinema with Lorcan, which was my younger brother, that I Jesus Christ, I don't know, like maybe 2 weeks before IFS, and I had a massive panic attack in the cinema, and Lorcan didn't know, and I was sitting beside him. I didn't know what to do, like I couldn't breathe, couldn't catch my breath. I felt so sick, and I remember I got up, went to the bathroom, tried putting cold water on my face, and it didn't work, so I had to sit down on the couch, and I couldn't leave because Lorcan was there and I didn't want him to know. We were watching the fucking Mission Impossible, is it? It's not even Mission Impossible, the one where they're flying the jets. I can't remember the name of it. Anyways, flying jets. Tom Cruise is in it, but it's a wonder flying jets anyways. And I remember sitting and I was hearing the thrusters of the jets, and I was going, that was it. And I was going mental.
Going to see that movie?
Yeah. And I remember I was freaking out in the chair because I'd hear the jets, and it was just, my anxiety was going super, super high, and I was out of breath. And then I was like, fuck. When I got home after that, I was like, fuck, I think I'm just going to end this all now because I don't know what to do. I can't control how I'm feeling. But it was therapy ultimately guiding me through so much of that. But I remember, and there's loads of people asking why I'm so open about it. First of all, because it saved my life. Second of all, because you're so open about it, and you're a therapist and you speak to me about it all the time, so it's normal. But in lots of people's households, it's not. One thing I always say to people is, you don't have to feel upset to go. You don't have to be psychotic to go. You don't have to have anything wrong with you to go. You can go if there's nothing wrong with you and just speak to someone. But
because we can develop, and another one of the patterns is an anxiety pattern. And that becomes our pattern throughout our lives, like. But you know,
because the therapy side of things, I remember my first session. I went into a room and she locked the door, and I freaked out, and I was like, never going back to therapy again. And I was quite upset, and I remember I ran off. But it's not supposed to happen like that. My mum says
no,
that.
Because I honestly didn't. I like.
She was supposed to speak to me about she was supposed to speak to me about something.
And when I think back on school, like school really didn't serve you. You were very quiet, and some teachers
did just non-stop criticise me. My English teacher always said I was not good.
I remember sitting down and saying that because you don't, and like when you tell me you couldn't speak, you when you were young you didn't speak very much. I used to always. I had this saying, gosh, he's a man of little words. He'll only speak if you ask Gushin a question, he'd give you one line. Now when you ask him a question, it's a different story. And I really feel that this work has really helped you, and like if people met you back then,
completely different,
small little group of friends, and like you did in national school, you got actually threatened. Like not many people would know. Like this is pretty serious. You got on a bus and you got threatened by a boy.
He was gonna kill me.
And he said he was going to kill. He said he had a gun and he was going to shoot your mother. And he said you're to sit in the same side of the seat. And I remember you came home and you told me you were upset. And I got in the car and I went to find the house. So we had many different instances like that.
There's loads. The results night, my results night in Leaving Cert, I got kicked down the stairs of a nightclub. Yeah, for one of the lads was messing in school and I got the blame. He kicked me down the stairs and then I did the same thing. They were working in a hotel and I found the fucking hotel and I went around to I went out to find out where he lived. So what I did, this is a funny story to tell.
You said to me, would it be okay to do this? And I was like, is that what you want to do? You want to confront him?
Yeah, that was the first time.
And I said, okay.
That was the start to stand up for myself, because for so long when I was getting bullied, I'd never stand up for myself because mum was always like, don't hit someone, you're not allowed. And then I was like, fuck this. So these guys kicked me down the stairs at my Leaving Cert results night. At the bottom of the stairs there was a guy waiting. He burst my nose, and then I had my best friend that stood up for me. And so after that, the next day I woke up obviously and I was like, fuck, I have to find out who these guys are and we're there. So one of them worked in a local hotel, which I found out through Instagram, which is so funny. And then I knew the location which one guy lived, but I didn't know what house. So if I drove out to the location, I knocked on a random door and I was like, I have jersey, because I knew he played Gaelic. I was like, or for anyone that's not Irish, Gaelic is essentially Irish soccer or Irish football. But I was like, I have these Gaelic jerseys for your man's name. Does he live around here? I don't know where he lives. I need to drop them off. And they were like, yeah, just down there on the left hand side. And I was like, fucking straight to his house, knocked on the door. His mother arrived, and then we ended up in the house. You were there as well. You came in, and then his parents said, oh, he didn't threaten, because he threatened to stab me. And he was like, oh, I didn't. And I just opened up my phone on Facebook. I was like, well, here's the message of him telling me he was going to stab me. So it's so funny. Yeah. But that was the start of me standing up for myself. And now I fucking hate bullying.
And I felt like you had experienced so much disempowerment, and like that corrective style of parenting really leaves a child feeling very powerless. So I felt like I had a responsibility there as well to kind of work towards what I'm doing and letting you feel like you had power in a situation. Because I suppose some mothers would have said, no way am I bringing you to someone's house.
Yeah, David.
But you weren't going to beat him up or anything. You really wanted to confront him. And I thought, I could do that. Like, I could take you there.
David Coelho, my jiu-jitsu coach, and it's actually something I learned through him, is if you are in a situation where you're being threatened or someone is talking down to you and you just don't say anything, That's not choosing peace, and that's not peaceful. That's just usually being peaceful because you're afraid. That's being scared. Being peaceful is where you're in a situation where someone is threatening you, whether that be physically or shouting down at you, whatever, and you decide not to come back because you can. So for me, my defense mechanism now is jiu-jitsu, because I know how to fuck people up. I'd like to say anyways, I'm a blue belt. I'm not that great, but it's in a way that now if someone's attacking me, I can choose to be peaceful and not do anything, rather than being forced into being peaceful, because being forced into being peaceful isn't being peaceful, or isn't standing up for yourself if you're forced into not standing up for yourself, because people just label as, oh, I'll just be peaceful, I don't want to do anything. Realistically, then when you go home, you're beating yourself up over it and you hate yourself for it. Meanwhile now I'm like, I'm okay, I don't need to. Or I can be like, yeah, I'll fuck you up in 2 seconds if I want. And I think that gives me so much power on social media as well, is because these people, and that's a question I'm going to ask as well, around hate and stuff, is these people that come at me with hate things, and you've seen some of them, and loads of them are so bad that it's now like, if I met this person, I fuck them up, so I don't really care, but there's still part of me that gets drained because of the bully aspect, because I feel like I have to stand up for everyone. Like, I'm standing up for the guys that no one stands up for here, and it's why I take such a different approach to fat loss, and I don't call people fat, I don't call people lazy, I don't call them derogatory names like a lot of people would, or a lot of previous coaches would, or the hardcore bodybuilders would, is because I was in a position where I was called all of those things and nothing worked. It just made me want to eat more food, and so now I feel the need to stand up for everyone here, everyone that's listening to the podcast, all of my followers. I'm like, I'm fucking standing up for every single one of you. So if anyone comes at me, that's attack. But the question to you would be, have you noticed social media wear on my mental health?
Have I noticed
social media or the hate comments get to me or drain me, or have you seen anything from the outside, or what would be your opinions on it?
No, initially I feel like you definitely have your voice now, so you would come and they're the comments you kind of come and explore a little bit and you talk it through, and because
sometimes they're a little bit too serious, sometimes I take it a little bit too far, like, gosh, you shouldn't have said that. But
I validate, and we kind of like have we kind of like talk through it. You want to like, I try not to kind of say an opinion, but I was like, do you really need to do that? I always say to you,
I do get taken to sometimes for it. I'm like, fuck, I just want you to say I can.
Yeah, but I always say to you but I'm saying, like, that's really giving you back your power. Is saying, look, you decide what to do. Like, you can do that. And I'm saying, like, if you have a feeling in your body, so connecting to your body, and if you have a gut feeling or something stopping you from doing something in that moment, then you need to listen to that and go, do you know what, that means I need to sit with that for a minute, because so it's like taking the time to, because we feel differently
rather than forcing me to do something, because that doesn't work, rather than being like, no, don't do that. That just makes me want to do it more.
So that's really hard for me as a mother. When you were younger, I would have went, no, don't do that. So that's very disempowering.
It's the same with the therapy side of things initially, as well as like, you have to do this, you have to go to therapy, and I hated it because of that. And like, to interconnect that to people going to the gym, like people trying to get their kids into the gym, I'd be like, you start going and tell them they can't come with you.
Yeah, and that's stemming from like just when I delved into this field and learn, and I'm very much a body worker now, because like I use my body in my work to pick up or feel things. I check in with my body all the time. I think it's so weird. All of us have so much power in the body, but like because I became aware of so much, that's what happened. And I think it might happen to all trainee therapists when you're heading in the road. It's like, and you're heading on the route and therapizing your kids, and you're kind of catching yourself. Why did I say that?
That's one thing. Stop. One of the things.
I'm not his therapist.
This is one of the things as well. Someone asked the question on Instagram, was like, what's it like having a therapist for a mother? And I was like, sometimes I actually have to turn around to her and be like, Mum, you're not my fucking therapist. Just let me feel upset, or let me be annoyed, or let me be not correct for once, please. Leave me alone. That's one of the things. But you're actually gotten a lot better at it now.
I keep like going, shut the fuck.
Yeah. But it's so funny because like even connecting that into therapy and kind of going back to the point, I don't know how we got here again, but it doesn't matter, is my first therapy session, my one I actually stayed with and the therapist I have now, you didn't force me to go to.
No, you asked me.
Yes.
That day, I think it was that day that you were sitting on the table, that the scenario that you don't remember. But I remember you saying to me, book it, because you already had him the second time. This is the first time when you said to me, I want you to book him, because I already knew Austin.
Yeah.
And you said, book him. But don't tell me.
Yes.
Just tell me the date.
Yes.
So, and that
I'd actually think you were to bring me to McDonald's. I think unless I'm mixing two different separate times up. But this time you were like, oh, we're going to McDonald's, and then we arrived outside his house.
No, I wouldn't do that. Not after, you might be mixing up, not after what happened with the other lady. I would never do that.
Okay, so you told me the date.
You asked me, and you said, don't tell me until you're bringing me. Oh, maybe you're right.
Yeah, and I think you said...
Because gave me permission. You said, don't tell me
Yeah, I did.
actually taking me. And like,
because I was afraid.
yeah, we already had, like, my family can't work with anybody that's connected to me through therapy, so it's more difficult to find someone. But I had found Austin a long time ago, and I felt like a male therapist was like that would work. So I'd found him before, so you knew, you had known the name, and you said just book him and just take me there this time, and I did that. And I knew when you said that, I thought, this is serious. This kid is
not okay.
I really thought this kid is not going to make it, and there was nothing I could do. I knew there was nothing I could do.
Yeah.
And the only thing I could do was keep validating and being there. And I remember feeling very heartbroken, and never, like, I still remember to this day the whole scenario visually and in my body, and I felt very helpless. That, like, I knew there was, the only thing I could do at that moment was listen. And it seemed, look, and I was a therapist at the time, but I'm learning all the time, and I just stayed. It was one of those times I stayed 100%, and getting to know your passions is very important.
Yeah.
You see. And when you said that to me, I felt a bit of relief. I thought, oh God, he has hope.
Yeah.
He has hope. Like, just saying those words.
I don't know why I did.
But you had a little bit of hope, and I thought, grand, he'll be okay. He's going to hang on to see Austin, and then Austin will work his magic.
Yeah.
In the sand.
Yeah. It's just so funny because when I go in there, he'll ask me to put toys in like a sand tray. But this sounds so crazy. And every time we talk about this, I'm like, fuck. If there's ever a future girlfriend listens to this podcast, I'm fuck, because they're going to think I'm weird. But you put toys in a thing, and they ask you loads of questions about it. But I think it's just like, it's just getting a story out of you without you having to speak it. And it's really, really good. I think it's probably one of the best things I've done is art therapy or play therapy.
And unconscious patterns will present. Like,
yeah.
You'll become aware of patterns you do. The therapist won't even, therapist mightn't even see it. You'll see it because the tray is yours. Someone else could create the same tray, but it has different meaning for them.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And so your advice to a parent that would be in a similar situation where their child is struggling, or maybe struggling with their weight or struggling with anything.
Yeah. I definitely validate and name, around the weight thing.
One thing you told me actually stands out. One thing you told me that stands out is like, you're going to be fine. That was one massive thing. You said that was even last September when I really thought I wasn't going to make it, and when I'd put up on my Instagram that I was giving up the videos and I wasn't doing it anymore, I was sick of all of this. And like, this is literally last year, and I had like 2,000 followers and now like 500,000. So it's mad how things can change. And then, like, mental health wise, obviously there's still always ups and downs. There's moments that are tougher, but thinking back to then, that was the toughest battle I ever fought. And so getting through that. But one thing you said to me that really, really helped is like, you're going to be fine. I was like, fuck, I just want someone to tell me that I'm going to be okay. Yeah. It's amazing how like one sentence stands out for dad is you're fucking gobshite, and the second sentence that stands out is you're going to be okay, you're going to be fine. I think dad's only saying you're a gobshite just meant to feel more real. I think that's fatherly love, and dad's a legend. Like, now I actually used to not speak to him for ages. Like, I didn't speak to dad for ages. Only through that experience last year and struggling, I built back that relationship into something that I absolutely love now. So I go out to his house after training and I always talk to him, and it was just, again, stories and stuff like that I would have built up, and my own thoughts, and therapy has helped me work through a lot of that. Like, and I would never have spoken to Dad without therapy or speaking to someone else. So I have you to thank for that, and Dad has you to thank for that as well. I would never have spoken to him ever again. Because I always remember he used to pull up outside the house and I would be like, I'm not fucking speaking, and tell him to fuck off, like, and I'd never go out. And then, like, I wasn't, I don't know, now thinking back, I'm like, why was I like that? But it's just all the built up anger,
just
like
built up anger and
stupid things,
and
like,
we carry that around without even being aware of it. Like, that's the load that we carry.
We
carry these things, and we're not aware of them. And you stress, like,
so you're always the favourite parent because I never stopped talking to you, although a few times it probably did as well.
And part of it because we're around each other. I suppose I make, like, making time with you is always very important for me. Like, I'll move things around, and
like now,
I really cherish every moment that I get is a very special one. I feel privileged, and that I get to be your parent. It was a great one initially, like, and getting there now. I'm part of you. I remember coming across something the other day, and that might make sense to you or maybe your listeners, that like stress also affects your mitochondria.
Mitochondria is like the energy. Yeah, so it's where your body produces energy, essentially. There's mitochondria in every cell in the body. So
and that stress, that's why stress has a huge impact. And remember I said about the neurotransmission
production of energy.
We might not be aware of what's there, what we're carrying. Like it can
you'd often say this to me is like when I'm getting really tired or when I'm feeling really stressed, is like I struggle to get out of bed in the morning times, or I struggle to get on exercise, and you're like gushing, it's probably because you're not feel the feelings, is all you always say.
Like the stress must be stress there that you're not really
because I still struggle with that time, but it's just because again having I don't even like calling it a business, but having my thing that my passion that I've put so much work into with Mulligan's Fitness, going from like 5,000 followers to 500,000 essentially overnight, is like, what the fuck? That never happens to anyone. That could be our record for all I know, like to blow up that quickly and to try and catch up and make sure that I can serve that many people from only serving a small amount has left me this year feeling quite drained and feeling quite tired. But it's always like that thing of like what you always tell me to do, write it all out. Writing it all out doesn't work for me, but like writing out a task list or writing something really makes a difference. So for anyone here with health and fitness, or that is like, if you start by just making the tasks as simple as possible and just listing them all out, it'll make you feel less overwhelmed and more successful in the long run.
How you're feeling, really recognize how you're feeling, move into the feeling, like become your own best friend. Just start writing down that inner critic's voice to get to know it. And then go, I don't want anyone's voice in my head put me down all like tell it to.
And it's because people will be sitting listening to this being like, fuck, I thought this.
Strengthen your best friend, like become your own best friend, your own supporter, your own coach. Like you really, so what I do try and encourage to do, and I do it for myself, like I do all this work for myself. I want to increase this part and see this inner critic. I want that eventually to be gone. And gradually from doing that fuck off thing, it is so, I'm like amazed at how well that's just.
Because people will be wondering like, how does this relate to my health and fitness? And it's so funny because it's the self-critic that's probably holding you back from partaking in anything, like getting up, going to the gym, or moving around, or looking after your nutrition, because maybe you don't feel good enough to be looked after. And there's so much into that, like that. So it is all interconnected. Like everything we're speaking about here can so easily be applied to improving your overall health.
Definitely changing that, like, because I'm back at the gym now, because since COVID I wasn't, but I would have been going out with the dog a lot. And I was leaving the gym the other morning, and I was like, oh, gee, I'm mad getting up every morning at like 6:10 to get to the gym. But I was like, oh my God, my body feels so good. It feels healthy.
Feels good.
The energy. And it's like, if I lie in bed, I know if I lie in bed I'm going to be more tired. And I did come across a piece of research that said, like, that's why education is good as well, you know. It's like, if you get that body moving, and if I am going into like high anxiety, if I get up and get my body moving, you know, I'm going to get more energy. Whereas if I stay in bed, the energy, and like that connects. So if I'm starting to shut down, so my dorsal vagal must have been activated in the morning. So then, or if I have chronic fatigue, then I know that what I need to do is I need to like get my body moving, because I want to. It's
so funny because that's worked for me with my work. Is like, because I have such an audience now and I make videos every single day. Like people don't realize that those 30-second videos actually take me hours to record. Like I'd spend like days and days and days recording them, editing them, everything. It's like sometimes that can be super overwhelming. What happens to me is I'll go into freeze mode. And especially like beginning of this year, I was like, man, sometimes I just lie down and I pretend like I'm in a coffin, I can't move. But what's helped me recently is like getting up and dancing and getting up and moving. It sounds so silly, but like putting on my favourite music.
It sounds like, you know, when you talk about that thing that you're in the coffin, that's dorsal vagal shutdown. Like if you know that cognitively, you're going to go, I'm in dorsal vagal shutdown.
Recently only I've been better at it, but at the start I wasn't.
Get myself, turn on some, just get myself moving. So how we get out of that, how we switch off the dorsal vagus, is we need to get moving. We need to create safety as well. We need to say, I'm okay, I'm safe,
I'll be fine.
Yeah, I'll be fine. No, I'm going to get up, I'm going to move, walk downstairs and see how I feel. I'm going to put on my runners, see how I feel then. So it's like,
it's the first step of that as well. It's the hardest. So for me actually now, when I'm lying down, I'll be like, hey Google, turn on, play Burna Boy, or play a music video, play a song. And so the song is playing, then I'm like, fuck, that's the first step taken. So for like getting out on a walk, it's like the first step, make it as simple as possible. Put on your shoes. That's your first step to exercise, putting your shoes. And once you have your shoes on, then you have to get out and get a walk in. Or like bring your gear that you're going to train in your car, so that the gear is there, you have everything ready. So I may as well just go for 5 minutes now, or with your exercises, do the first exercise and then it'll get easier after that. And then if you want to go home after that, that's fine, but starting is the hardest part. So if you feel stuck, make the first step, the easiest fucking thing. Pre-workout and say coffee or something is a great one to use. So if your pre-workout is essentially just expensive coffee anyways, and so what you do is you drink it before going to the gym. And so what it is you've spent money on this thing, you're drinking it before going to the gym. It's like a vitamin drink or whatever. You're like, fuck, I've drank that now. And that's easy. It's easy to drink a drink. It's not easy to go to the gym. But once I've drank it and I've spent money on this, I have to go. So it's like, fuck, I have to get up and go to the gym now. It's same as cans of Monster, like people nowadays, or the energy drinks. I don't think the energy drinks really give you a huge amount of energy. But now that you've a drank, you're like, fuck, I have to go to the gym now. And it's placebo effect then is into that as well. But we've been going on about an hour, but I want to get a few funny questions. So we might go for another 10 or 20 minutes because we've been asked a couple of hilarious questions here.
Yeah.
One is the funniest. Yeah, the funniest. Do you want to touch on that first? The videos. How you know what videos I've made throughout the day?
Like the things I come home to, like I know when something's missing. Or
the specific one I remember is the glass. So like I threw up a glass in one of my videos and it broke and smashed on the ground. Fully convinced. I don't know if anyone else's brain does this, but fully convinced I cleaned up that glass on the floor. I didn't. Mom said she walked in like later on at the evening time and it was just neatly piled glass in the middle of the fucking kitchen floor. Because everyone's always talking about, Jesus Christ, you break so much stuff.
Yeah. But my washing up liquid, I was at the sink, went to wash. I was like, where's the washing up liquid gone? And I just went, I'm going on Instagram. He definitely, he took that one.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's hard to come up with the video ideas, you see. So I go around the kitchen, I'm like, what can I break today? And now I'm recently in your playroom. I'm like, what can I fucking throw around the playroom? Or what can I fuck around to make a video?
Up biscuits. I was like, I just happened to bring the Hoover in my room, and I was like, how the hell does he get biscuits?
Yeah, I'd do anything to try and help someone simplify fat loss. It touches into that English teacher thing as well, and then I'll go on to the thing. The English teacher always used to say to me that I wasn't good at English because I couldn't over-explain and waffle about shite that didn't matter. So, for example, in King Lear or whatever, I don't even remember what book it was because I hated English so much because the teacher would do not give out to me all the time. It was, I had to explain why someone got a pound of flesh or why he cut off something. And there's a big long explanation or there's a simple explanation as he just cut it off him. And my answer to the question was, he cut it off him because he needed it to trade for money or something like that.
You used to give one line.
That was it.
You were always that way.
But this isn't it. It's so funny now that there's so much overcomplicated shit with fitness and online and nutrition and everything. That my aspect that I'm really good at is just making it as simple as possible and calling people cunts while I do it.
Yeah, you wanted to ask me how you got into the sport because I remember even back the teachers in secondary school, like everyone was convinced that you were going to be an architect or engineer. You could build the most amazing things with Lego, and you had like this mind that was able to work through that kind of stuff. And it was quite amazing, and that's tech graph, and you got that thing in the school where you built the tap, the USB tap, and it was put up on display as one of the
projects. I got an A in that as well.
Yeah.
I got an A in tech graph.
Everyone was surprised when Oisin turned around and he goes, I'm doing sports science. So I was like, what?
A course for no jobs.
And then I began to think outside the box. My mind went to, makes sense. He's going to go into the mechanics of everything. And you have. I thought his mind, he's just going to go into the mechanics.
This is good to think about, like the Lego blocks, making everything as simple as a Lego block, like that they all stick together and then they create something complicated. Rather than what most people do is like, this is really complicated, here's your big massive Lego piece, go make that. Meanwhile, my goal is to like, this is your first Lego piece, let's put that down first, and this is the next instruction, let's build this. And then all we'll do is that eventually we'll have this big massive castle built, but we'll start with the first block. And it's something that's so funny that you say it now, it makes so much sense in my head, but my English teacher used to always give out to me for that, being like, just given the first Lego block. And then it was like, why not waffle on about this whole, because like I just couldn't be arsed.
I remember him calling in and saying you were going to lose a lot of points because he said Oisin sits there for ages and says nothing, and everyone else is working away on their drawings. Oisin sits there, says nothing. But you see, Oisin, what I saw happen, then Oisin would just start drawing and said, we need all them little things that are in his head. He needs to put all them puzzles or whatever he's doing in his head. But Oisin used to do it in his head and then he'd draw it. So you didn't need to do the little piece.
Or maybe what I was doing, I was waiting for the fella beside me to finish up his drawing. I'd look at how he did it and I just did it myself. I was tricking everyone. One of the biggest questions he got asked, right, was, let me see here, funniest childhood story. So one childhood story with me involved that you remember. I remember one, which is a funny one, and then you can see. So back when we were younger, we went to a restaurant called Mamma Mia. It was here in Athlone. And my dad dared me to eat a piece of feta cheese and an olive. And they were all nagging me to eat a piece of feta cheese. Yeah, they were paying me €50, I think it was as well. And I was always a kid, €50.
Was it £50?
Was it £50? Well, yeah, but anyways, whatever it was, when you're that young and you see 5-0, it's like $5,000 when you're this age, right? I was like, fuck it, I'll eat them if it's the last thing I do. So I got the cheese and the olive, stuck it in. They weren't 2 seconds down my gullet and I puked. But it wasn't just normal puke, right? It was literally, I spewed from one end of the table to the opposite end, filled about 6 different cups, and Mr. Mamma Mia himself was standing at the top of the restaurant just watching everything unfold in the busiest restaurant in Athlone. It was the busiest restaurant in Athlone, and everyone was looking at me, and this kid came up to me and handed me a toy car. Mum was in the bathroom, and then Dad got up and went in, or Eva went in, or someone was like, oh, we need to get tissues, and they came out with 2 tissues to clean a whole bloody table full of sick. I didn't even know, like, I must have ate so much, because I'm not joking, I'm not over exaggerating whatsoever. It filled about 4 cups. And just before I got sick, when I was looking, who did I look at? My older brother, and I go, Owen, and then I just spewed in his direction, got sick all over him. So that's my funniest childhood story. I
definitely have a better story than that.
That's the one I remember. Do you remember one from your childhood? A funny story from yours?
Oh no, I don't. No, I was always in trouble.
Yeah, you were always a mess. So all the stories I've ever heard of you were always messing. You're all doing mad stuff.
I was always in trouble.
Because you're living on a big farm as well.
I lived on a farm, yeah. So I was always in trouble.
Another thing I got, this might be a sad, biggest regret in life.
Okay, for me.
Yeah, for both.
My biggest one is definitely when I look back and see how I parent. It brings me a lot of like discomfort, and I feel very sad about that. That always brings tears to my eyes. That I didn't cherish you more, and like, but that the behavioural approach, like correcting kids all the time and not knowing that you needed to have, my kid needs to have power in the world, then he won't be bullied. But it was like I set up all that to happen. I'm not self-blaming, or I'm just looking back and feeling like that's the saddest moment for me. If I could undo that, definitely. One
thing I always think when you say it, because you've said it a few times, is like, if you changed the way you're parenting, I definitely wouldn't be the way I am now.
Probably
100%.
I'd say probably if I changed the way I parent, maybe you might not be heading down the field that you're going right now. I'm not sure. Yeah,
I don't think so. So I think like, I'm glad you parented the way you did.
Character.
I don't think it was.
I don't want to be. Yeah, look, you could say like there's the side of it that to make myself feel better, I could say all of those things, but I don't want to make myself feel better about it, because like it is what, like, I had many good moments, but there were so many moments that would have strengthened and strengthened your psychology and your mental health, and strengthened like that not enoughness. Like it's a one of the toughest
that's
to work on,
my biggest one is like always saying I'm not good enough, and like still to this point to a certain extent with different things, but one thing I've gotten better with is just saying fucking and doing it. So like before I even do this podcast, it's like, I'm not good enough to do a podcast, or I'm not good enough to get up on stage and talk, or I'm not good enough to do even my Instagram stuff. Is like, that's never going to work for me. So it's something I regret, but I'm still working on, because it still happens to me as well from time to time. It's the self-belief side of things that I need to get better at, but I have something to work on.
Absolutely.
So there is, I don't know what you'll think of these questions, right? So one is fit over 50 in menopause, right? So getting into how you do it, and I know it's not a funny story, or a funny question. I actually don't know why that's in the funny question section.
I'm 51, like, I'm not gonna,
and so how have you,
not afraid of my age,
and menopause?
So how do I manage if I'm noticing symptoms? I was a late starter, so I presume, like, my guess is that, like, I'm going to move slowly into it. That's what I feel with my body, but I definitely feel changes and feel like that you get a bloated tummy. So what I find actually is getting back to the gym and
lifting weights.
I actually find that lifting the weights again and doing all that training with weights that I used to do before COVID hit, but COVID hit and I stopped, and then we got the dog and I got busy and I just couldn't fit it in my schedule. But now I'm prioritising it in my schedule, because I feel like it's for bone health as well. Like, I know it's really good for bone health and osteoporosis. Like, calcium can hit in. I do take a vitamin. She knows that. I won't advertise it. I don't want to be, but she knows that.
Just pay me big money with my on the podcast.
But I do take one every day. I do find that like, and I cut down on coffee, of course. Like, I just have 2 cups a day now. So I very much, like, am more tuned into my body, and I know that stress impacts hormones as well.
It's so funny that I've not given you any information on menopause and you've just listed out all of the things that I recommend.
But I've noticed a difference since I went back, because I wouldn't have been going through perimenopause before the last time I went to the gym, before COVID. But I feel my body, the more connected you are to your body, the more you'll feel the changes. I'm feeling changes, and especially like bloatedness in my tummy, digesting food slower. I definitely noticed that. I definitely feel a bit more windy. But I find now, since I started the weight training, oh my God, it's different. My clothes feel different. My body feels stronger. I just feel stronger and more able. And I feel like everything's coming back in balance. I
think part of it as well is like the menopause title, and it obviously does impact people a lot, but it gives you a title of I can't do this, or it's a limiting title. Meanwhile, I got to give her a shout out here. Yeah,
that's amazing you said that, because Gabriel Matter said that term "I have" is disempowering.
It gives. The other day. I don't know. Say it gives you an excuse, but like back,
it means I've no power to change what's happening.
Back last September, if I went into the doctors, they would have said I had depression. I would never have came out where I was.
Yeah.
Or I would have said you were diagnosed with anxiety. I would never have come out with where I was, because I have it. Then there's nothing I can do about it.
It's disempowering.
Yeah, it's so funny.
It's like I have no power in this.
It's not the case.
And actually, and Gabriel Matter would say that as well. That I have, it's not the case. If you say I have, that means like that you've no power to change this. So the perimenopause comes before menopause. So like the perimenopause is quite hard, because you don't know what's happening in your body. But it's definitely
it's difficult. But you're tackling it.
The gym was definitely.
I think the biggest fear with people is like the gym. This actually.
So going back was hard.
Yeah, the challenge is something. So like for example, the gym is easy for you to go into because you've experienced harder things before.
No, not necessarily. I had to go with Kayla.
Really?
My sister.
Okay, so you went with someone.
I waited. I didn't want to go on my own, and I was going to the gym for how many years was I in the spring?
I feel bad for not bringing her now.
I didn't. It was Kayla. I kept waiting, and then one day Kayla was able to come with me. And even at that, like when I can't figure out
one thing,
I don't ask anybody.
You're really good at this though, because you don't give it's not that you really don't give a fuck, but you realise that exercise is just movement, and so like no matter what way you're moving the machines, you're actually lifting weights. And some people feel like you have to get everything perfect when you're in the gym, or I can't go into the gym because I'm going to do this wrong. And the way I explain it, the way I explain it is like, imagine the first person that invented how to squat probably went out into their backyard and picked up a fucking bag of turf. They probably even have turf back when they invented squats, and just did it in a random way and was like, oh, I'm going to call that a squat. And like, even what I would say to people now is like, you don't know any names of the machines or exercises that you do in the gym. You don't know what to call. I remember once when she was in the gym, she used to call the squats up and down thingies. So I'm doing up and down thingies in the gym, but it doesn't matter because you know what you're doing and you're doing exercises, and technique doesn't necessarily have to be perfect.
It was you actually, when I went to the Springs, you showed me all the stuff, so I'm kind of doing what you showed me. So you definitely need somebody, and like joining the gym, no one came up and said, look, gosh, you're new, or recognised I was new. I was just gone in. But Kayla told me a really good tip, and I loved the tip. And I do it all the time. If I
it better be to join the Mulligan's method.
No. She said, play around with the machine. There's always something you can pull.
Yeah.
There's always something you can pull or push. So I was in there, and I know I hit one machine I couldn't do, but I'd be there pulling. What does this do? I'll try this.
I'm glad I'm not in the gym with you.
One machine, I must have got up to. I had to look around and said, thank God the gym's dark now. Nobody can see what I'm at. And I got on it, I got off it, and I was pushing and pulling things. But I thought that was a really good tip.
It is, because it doesn't matter. And everybody's so funny. Because everyone's so afraid in the gym what people are thinking, that they're so afraid. They're like, fuck, this person's looking at me, so they just look at the ground, so they're not actually even looking at you. But it's so funny, because I remember one time when you first started the gym, you're holding on to the lat pull down machine, so you're pulling the rope bar down, and then the bar went up and Mam came up with the bar, so she was just hanging off it in the middle of the gym, hanging from like a monkey bar that wasn't a monkey bar, and like your legs were up near your chest hanging from this bar. Oh, I couldn't stop laughing for ages. But it's so funny because no one in the gym saw that happen. It was just me, and I was laughing for ages.
It was you that brought me to that got me started in the Springs, because I did all kickboxing and Muay Thai and stuff before that. I did the gym years and years ago when I lived in Dublin, but but you definitely showed me all the stuff.
Your definition of happiness. So we have two more questions. Definition of happiness, and then one that I got fired in last minute, so we'll talk about it.
Peace. Just getting to that space of like being peace, just that contentment, that space where you kind of feel like in balance, like that. I feel like, I'm feeling good. Like I don't think it's about chasing happiness. I don't feel.
This is peace. You showed me that quote. You showed me that quote. It was, happiness is the absence in the pursuit of happiness, and that stuck with me so much, because it's like the more you chase it, the more you want this, and it's just you're not going to get it. You're going to feel even worse because you're like, I'm in this position where I'm not happy.
I said peace with myself. So acceptance of, I think that's it, acceptance of my, that's what brought me the peace, is accepting myself for where I'm at, even when I feel not good enough. Accepting that's where I am right now. I've just discovered, and I love that one, you know, where you don't look at failure or myself in a negative way anymore. A supervisor told me, I'm smiling, she's a very good supervisor too, Emer, and so she said to me, like, it's to look at it like I've discovered something about myself, and let me explore something. Let me explore on how to do that differently, or let me explore something. And I use that now all the time rather than berating myself, or if I mess up on something. Yeah,
it's so funny because that's so connected to weight loss. I actually named this the fucked circle. So I did it on one of the presentations that I did before. It was like, okay, you start your weight loss journey, you fuck up, which is part of the circle. So you're meant to fuck up in order to learn how you fucked up or what fucked up and how you gained weight or how you didn't lose it this week or whatever went on, to then get to a position where you're learning, and then next week you get on better. You're not meant to get on a journey and be 100% all the time and absolutely nail your weight loss or absolutely nail your health and fitness goals. It's like being okay with maybe not doing the best, reflecting on it, and then being okay with that and moving forward.
We're programmed from childhood, we're told that failure is
bad. Your tests.
Like in my day, we were hit. I remember being lined up in school and you had to hold out, and the boys got the knuckles, but I remember standing there and like this, and I got whacked on the hand. So that really frightened the life out of me. Oh my God, failure is bad.
I'm glad that happened to you,
programmed that in,
so it wouldn't happen to me, because then whenever you got better, you were like, there's no hitting in this household, and we never got slapped or nothing, thank God. So if you didn't get hit in school, we would have got better around the place, I'd say.
And we got better at home. Like, that law didn't come in, I think, till, I don't know, it was 85 or something. It could have been a bit later. Oh no, it wasn't 2005, where parents can't hit their children. I feel like that was the best thing that ever came in, because we got slapped as kids. And the thing is, with an adult, your emotions can get really strong, and you'll hit from that emotion. That's why emotions matter. Emotions matter. So, 3 words to describe me, only using 3 words, and my biggest downfall. And you can't say no downfall, you have to list one, because you can't be a lick arse. That's hard.
You can't be a lick arse. There's no lick arses on this podcast. Any lick arses on this podcast, we end the episode straight away.
First one again.
So 3 words to describe me.
Oh my God, just beautiful, like absolutely amazing.
Do you hear that? The women on my Instagram are listening to this one.
Like, I just love how you just don't get up. You just don't give up. You just keep going. You just keep getting back up and going, and like, you inspire me every day when I see you doing videos. That makes me go, you know what, like, if I have something hard, I was like, Sugar Ocean's doing that, I can definitely do this. Like, you inspire me every single day. I'm so proud, like, not just of the human that you are, not what you're doing, because of the human that you're growing into, because you're not fully there yet. But the human you're growing into is quite amazing, and I'm just like going, oh my God, this guy. And the thing is, I throw that right back at you, because you're an inspiration to have kids go through divorce, look after us as well by yourself, and do all your hard work all the time. You work longer hours than I bloody do. Like, you were in college when I was in college. I remember the lad saying to me, Oisín, Jesus Christ, your mother has been in school as long as we've been in school. Like, you put in so much. And the thing is, that was against so many other people's opinions of what you should have done, and it's something that stands out to me all the time. I'm like, no matter what I'm doing, I don't have to listen to what other people want me to do or the way I should do things. I'm going to do it my way. And that's the way I want to, because it worked for you. You're doing what you want now, and you really enjoy what you do. I remember doing play therapy back in childhood, and people laughed at you for it. Laughed and saying, what are you doing that? You don't have a BA either. At the time, I was able to get in because I was working with kids in Galway, and I really fell in love with it. I just saw so many changes. I was doing play therapy before I even knew I was doing it. That's I wasn't using the behavioural approach in the room. So fuck them. And this is a big thing for Mam to come on a podcast as well, is because she's not in the online space, and it's hard and it's difficult. It's more self-belief. Information or like, so I'm just so scared of that. And it's so funny. I think that's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where people that don't know anything about a subject spew the most amount of shite because they think they know a lot, but they actually don't. But then the more you get to know, the less you think you know. And it's so funny, because you do know a lot, and you even know a lot with regards to health fitness, because you were speaking about menopause there, and I've never spoken to you about that, and it's something I've done a decent amount of research on, and you've given all the advice that I give, like, you know, kind of, it's so funny. But the biggest downfall as a human being. Oh my God, on 100% there's none. Like, I am coming from a really genuine. I can tell you yours, too much of a therapist sometimes. But it's normal, right? I have to listen to it. No, I think maybe like catching the stress before, like, because catching the stress, maybe listing out, like I brought in some tools to kind of do it, and I thought maybe I'll do it again, is like holding out your hand. If you think of like all the things that you have going on, and I really like would really need you to look after yourself, like you know, if you think about the stress, catch it, move into it, and that would be the only thing that I would probably
try to get me better.
I would be like, I would be saying, look, I want to work with you on that, but actually, like,
you can't work with me on
that. Really, but I can like do that exercise that once.
So one of my other biggest downfalls is probably like I do fuck up the house quite a bit, and I don't.
No, that's not a downfall. I really don't see that. Yeah, sometimes when I'm tired, like when I'm overloaded. So when I'm overloaded, and I know when I'm overloaded because I can feel it in my body, I know sugar, like this is going to be hard. Like, and I remember the day that hit me was I came home, and this was the awakening for me. And you came down and you had the biggest smile on your face, and your eyes lit up when you saw me. And the sink was full, and I don't know what you had been doing in the kitchen, but like, I was like, what is this?
Chefing up a storm.
And you came down, and I just really dampened it. I was like, I didn't even greet you or smile. I just said, like, what the hell is going on here? Like, I'm working all day and I come home. And you went upstairs. Your whole face, I'll never forget, it just dropped. My heart sank, but you had turned and went upstairs. Your whole body just collapsed. And I sat there and I went, oh my God, like, what am I doing?
Yeah, it's so funny.
Like, what am I doing?
Because there's been so many moments where that hasn't happened. So actually, it's so funny. Like one was when I got the car. Well, I got my car, and Dad was like, "I'm super proud of you." That was one moment where I was like, "Holy fuck, this is crazy." And one moment was, remember you bought James Smith's books for me. This was like. This was Christmas time before my account actually blew up. She bought me like 3 of James Smith's books, and it wrote on the inside of it like, you're going to be like this guy one day, or you can and like no longer than 1 week later, James Smith had texted me and asked me to speak at IFS after my mother just buying all of his books, delivering to me and be like, this is going to be you're going to speak alongside this guy someday, or you're going to do all these things. And I was like, holy fuck. And then I came down to you and I was like, James Smith has messaged me. You're like, oh my God. And that was a moment where I like, that was fucking proud moments as well. There's been so many of those. So like for the one that's missed, probably some shite anyways.
So much pressure there as well for you to quit. For you not to keep doing
so that
was massive.
My dad handed around CVs to random places to go and work for. He was just worried as well because I actually wasn't making money, or I had no money, and being in debt with it. I couldn't afford to do my coaching clients anymore. There was loads of stuff, and then I suppose I just didn't give up. I kept going at it. I kept making videos. People around the town were laughing at me for the videos I was making. I was getting money from me. They were like, oh yeah, just putting all this time into something that's not going to work, or that's not going to blow up. And then it did. And so one thing that I'd like people to take from this, and that's why the thing is I shouldn't be here, is like to have that self-belief in yourself, because you might fucking well be here. You never know what's around the corner. Only 6 months ago I thought I'd not be here, I'd not have anything, or this never work out for me. But the final one, the last question I got asked was about being single, man.
Who's single?
You. How? Because so many people feel like...
just my priority was always you lads.
Yeah.
It was always, and I think, it was always that way. And the gym, really, someone had to have to be into the exercise and, all that outdoorsy stuff as well. I don't know, I never thought about it because I was always...
Yeah, you're so busy. Maybe I shouldn't ask the question now. You don't dig too deep into it. We both started crying here on camera.
And I
think it's something that's definitely benefited me.
I had so much work to do on myself.
Yeah.
I feel like
it's something that's benefited me. Would I like someone? Yeah, but I think the time that I have been alone and like had more time as we go, and like again I have been in and out of different things, that I feel better for it. I feel stronger of a person. I feel like I can travel now. I can do things. I'm not relying on someone else to do that. Like it's good, and it's definitely made me more confident, because even IFS, I would never have went to that if I was in my previous relationship.
No, you weren't going to go.
And I would never have met the people that I did over there. I wouldn't be in a position, because I felt like I would always give my all to something else, and it would drain my energy from what I was doing, and I would never have I was making like 1 or 2 videos a week, and that was all the dedication that I was putting in towards what I really wanted to do, was help people. And so I think relationships for me take a lot out of me, it take a lot away from me, and something I need to work on is giving more back to myself.
You put a lot into them. Do you know what I mean? And taking that time to grow yourself, and then the right person will come along. Because
you can feel in a rush though when you're like 25. It can be like, holy fuck, I'm gonna be 30 soon, I need to get onto something here.
But you want to meet the person that kind of like your similar values, values, and you're like you're kind of there to support each other, but you want to have the same values. And
so you've been, I think I learned a lot from you in the way, like, you've been so good by yourself. So why can't I be? Well, no, why can't I be? That's it. Like, though, you're so strong for yourself. You stand up for yourself. You do your own shit and you don't really care. You go out and you run with the dog. You go to the gym. You do what you enjoy. And that's okay. You don't need someone else to do any of that stuff with you. Like, yeah,
I was lucky that I do say I was lucky. So for anyone that chooses different, I was lucky that, like, it was my addiction.
The gym,
like, it was outside of family. But it's really what made me feel good. But it's what made me feel good. But addictions aren't really the best. So now that it gets healthier, it's healthier for me now. Like, you know, which is amazing.
Rightio, I think this is the end of the first ever podcast. I shouldn't be here. And it's been an absolute pleasure to do it with my mum, and hopefully you picked up a lot of information about me and about my mum, but also about the person that my mum is and how she's made me who I am. And again, I'm super proud to be able to call you my mother. I think everybody online fucking loves you as well. But I definitely wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I definitely would not be sat here on this couch without you. Would not be working towards trying to help as many people as possible. So even though I'm helping every person here that's listening to this podcast, my mom's helping me. So she's all helping you through me somehow, and I've learned a lot from you. So thanks a million for listening. You'll be able to catch this on, I suppose, all streaming platforms. I don't really have a fucking clue yet because this is the first podcast. YouTube, anyways, is definitely going up. There'll be a video version on YouTube. So make sure you tune into that one. It could be nice to watch. Stick it on the car list and whatever. But thank you so much if you've lasted to the end and listened to the whole lot. And hopefully you can take one thing from it. Make sure you like and subscribe and share the podcast if you took something useful from it, or even tag me in it on your stories. Let me know you've listened to it or give me some feedback on it so we can consistently make the episodes better. But make sure you tune in for the next one.